Hello, board gamers of the world. Welcome to the Curious Box. Here we are, 2019, full of news, full of new things to bring you here at the Curious Box. I'm not gonna announce any of them right now. Today I'm here to present a new interview. It's still the holiday season here, and this is Portugal, and we have the holiday season until the 6th of January, because it's the King's Day. So today we still have some interviews for this holiday season, some exclusive interviews. We have been talking, in case if you didn't check yet, we have been talking with people like Bruno Catala, with Emerson Matsuushi, with Gilles Doré, Pedro Oliveira, Pedro Gordalina, and we still have two more interviews today and tomorrow. So today we have Allan Kirkeby, or Allan Kirkeby, I don't know how to pronounce his name correctly, Danish board game designer behind the recent success of Itchy Monkey. He came to the box via Skype and he talked to us a little bit about his game, about his presence in Essen, about his expectations for the near future. So it was a great interview. Check it out. It's right now. Hi Allan.
Hello.
Welcome to the Curious Box. I want to know a little bit. Let's start with Essen.
Yeah, I've been there a couple of times. It was great. It was crazy, lots of people as usual, and then I spent a lot of time having meetings with publishers, showing my games.
New games.
Yeah, new games. Yeah.
We'll get there. Tell me about Itchy Monkey.
Yeah, so Itchy Monkey is a kind of small tactics game where you control an army of lice, and you have to spread it out to as many monkeys as possible, and win by dominating most monkeys. It's published by Black Box Adventures, and in Essen I was there to promote the game as well, because it was published in Essen. Yeah.
Oh, it was published in Essen.
Yes, it was. It was released. So it was. It ran as a Kickstarter earlier in the year, and then the first copies could be picked up by Kickstarter backers in Essen, and you could also buy it. So it was the kind of the official first release of the final product. So that was very exciting for me.
How did it go there? Concerning Itchy Monkey.
I loved it. I think, you know, it was my first published board game. So it was, I had the experience of everything from, you know, picking up the box and smelling the cardboard, you know, like a new board game, and seeing my own game, and then meeting all the excited backers, and you know, signing their copies, and, you know, having, you know, seeing people being happy about a game that I created. So I love that.
There was it available also for playing there?
Yes, the publisher had created a play area with only Itchy Monkey. So there were actually three stations, I think. And on the Saturday, I was at the booth and demoing the game. So I was introduced to a lot of, you know, people who knew the game, some of them, but also people who just dropped by and found it interesting. And I had to teach them the game for the first time. And, you know, it's great when you created a game and you start explaining the game, and you could see it in their eyes. At first they're kind of like concentrating and their eyes are very concentrated, and suddenly you see this moment of where they go, ah, I see what's going on, and then they understand the game, and then suddenly they, it happens with all games, but it's more emotional, I think, when it's your own design and you present it like that.
And since it's your first game published, I'm wondering if it feels like the end of a journey. Like I know you have been designing games for your kids for a long time, right?
Yeah, so well, I've actually I've come from the computer games industry, so I have been designing games for a long time, and so I've been on similar journeys before. But this one with board games, it started back in 2009, and I designed a game for my kids because I wanted to play role-playing games. But they can't understand, Dungeons and Dragons because they're just kids, and so I created something simple. And many years later, I joined. There's like a convention in Denmark called Festival, and a couple of my friends go there regularly, and they suggested go there, and they have a competition. So I entered my game, and that was some years ago. And now I've basically been attending that every year since, and I've become part of a big design community in Denmark with a lot of other designers, and I've been designing a lot of different games. And then 3 years ago, I started pitching my games to publishers, and so it culminated last year at Essen, where I signed the first game, and then it took another year before that game was actually released. So this year in Essen, it was released. So yeah, it's been like a long journey with board games from 2009, where I was just a hobby thing, just for fun, and then being more serious like 3-4 years ago, and then having the first one published now it's a culmination, but it's also pretty strange because it's, the industry is a little bit slow. I mean, it's like when I created the game Itchy Monkey, that was almost 2 years ago, my first creation of the game. So it's like you spend some time, talking, and then you spend like a couple of months designing another game, and then you spend a couple of months on vacation, and so a lot of time passes in between actually doing work or talking to a publisher and so on. So, but yeah, it is a culmination. I'm happy, very happy about it.
How old are your kids?
My youngest son is 11, and the oldest is 15.
So are they playing Itchy Monkey already?
Yeah, the oldest one enjoys. Well, I have my, kids are different. My oldest son is very brainy, thinky guy, and the youngest son, obviously he's younger, but he's also more of an action guy, and he plays a lot of computer games like Fortnite and so on. So I think Itchy Monkey is a bit too thinky for him. So he loves more like, simpler games, bluffing games and so on, like Love Letter or something. But my older son, I can play heavy games with him. So I played so he likes Itchy Monkey. He likes my other designs as well. But an example of a quite heavy game I played with him was Gloomhaven. So that was interesting. That was fun.
Is he a tester for you?
Yeah, actually, now that you ask, I haven't thought about it like that. But yeah, he is a tester. I mean, and obviously he loves doing it because I'm his father, and he likes what I'm doing and so on. But yeah, I'm using him as a tester. I haven't thought about it like that, but.
For how long have you been testing your game?
You mean Itchy Monkey particularly? It was, well, first of all, the design process was quicker than some other games. I mean, it's a very complicated game to play, or it's not a complicated game to play, but it requires a lot of thinking because you have to consider many different moves you can make. But the mechanisms in the game are relatively simple. There are a few core mechanisms, and they are very, very well put together. So I guess it's one of those games that I came up with it either while I was sleeping or something, and I got out of bed and I wrote the rules down, and then a couple of, during the next couple of weeks after that, I kind of built a prototype and tested it out, and then I tested, over a couple of months with some friends, and then I basically had the game as I figured it would be. But then you test on and off until you actually pitch it to a publisher. So it was kind of, I guess, for a couple of months.
Was there a moment while testing when you were like, when there was some reaction from the testers you were not expecting?
Yeah, I think most of the reactions are that, well, first of all, the version I tested with did not have monkeys on it. That was just, like prototypes are usually not very bland and sometimes boring looking because you haven't got a professional graphic artist. So I think a lot of testers had this. They had this approach where, yeah, let's try it out because we want to try it out. But then after a while, they were kind of like, yeah, this is very interesting. I mean, so that's what you hope with all your games, right? But it's a very obvious game. What you need to do, it's like chess, it's like go and attack the others and win and move on to other monkeys. So I didn't have those aha moments in the same way as I've had with other games.
Is there a game coming soon? I mean, I know you were presenting some at Essen. Was there any outcome? Any positive outcome?
There are a couple, but I can't talk about them from this year. And I'm still, sometimes when you show something to publishers and they meet with like, I don't know, hundreds or a lot of designers. So. And they see a lot of prototypes, so it takes a lot of time for them to decide. So I have, for example, a few days ago, I communicated by email with a publisher who would be testing one of my games in January. So sometimes it takes a long time before they actually get around to testing them. So I'm waiting for a couple of them. But actually, the same publisher who's publishing Itchy Monkey also picked up another game from me. And hopefully it will be released in 2019. It's called Launch Bay Escape. It's kind of named in my profile or somewhere on Board Game Geek, but there's nothing public about the game. We're still developing it basically. It's called Launch Bay Escape, and it's about fighting aliens in a very narrow launch tube with a huge space shuttle, running over you if you're not fast enough. I can't explain it more than that right now. It's cooperative movement programming.
Okay, I'll be expecting it. What is an advice that you think an advice you wished someone had given to you while you were starting your first games?
Yeah, probably don't try to, if you love drawing, don't try to draw all the graphics yourself. Because it's difficult because in the beginning, that actually inspired me. So I was motivated by drawing my own graphics, even though I'm not that good of a graphic artist or anything, but I found that interesting. So it's a double-edged sword, because the negative side is that you end up spending time drawing graphics and not building a good game. And the second, you need to you need to not fall in love with your game, because you need to be able to let it go and destroy some of the ideas you had if they turn out to be not good. And that's the risk of actually if you build something that's very nice and beautiful, and you spend a lot of hours drawing a lot of graphics for it, it's very, very difficult to actually look at everything you did and just say, well, I need to destroy that or scrap it and choose a new mechanism. So if you keep it simple in the beginning, you need to iterate a lot and make a lot of small changes without spending too much time on those changes.
So would you recommend for those designers who would like also to be the artists of their own games, would you recommend them to finish first the game and then start illustrating it? Or
I think something I've discovered also with being part of so I'm not going to answer you directly because it depends, right? So I'm part of this design community in Denmark where we have a lot of also published designers, and I know that all of them, we all work a little bit differently. So some of us dream about being, not me, but some of the people I work with here want to be and are already trying to publish their own games. Some just want to do the core game concept, core game mechanisms and pitch to publishers, and some actually want to do their own graphics. And I think the biggest threat for the biggest adversary, the biggest opponent in terms of getting a game published is yourself and your own motivation, because most designers start out working, having a real job or going to school or wherever, and they need to find the motivation when they come home from work to go home and design. And if that motivations come from making beautiful drawings, that's how you keep going. So you need to figure out what motivates you to just keep working on the game. And if that's drawing, then do that. But if it's not, then I would recommend, and if you can just put the drawings down, I would recommend try to build your game first, and maybe use your drawing talent to do some good icons or iconic, so you do some nice symbols, which are usually also important in the early prototype phase, but otherwise just focus on the game mechanisms first.
You told me you went on Kickstarter with Itchy Monkey, right?
Yes.
How was the process? I mean, did you find a partner first, or did you build all the Kickstarter campaign all by yourself, or how did it work?
It wasn't actually me who went on Kickstarter. I met with the publisher in Essen in 2017, and after agreeing with them that they would publish it, we also agreed that they would run a Kickstarter. So, and I'm very happy with what they did and how they did it, because it takes a lot of work to do a good Kickstarter. Everyone, you probably bought games on Kickstarter. I buy games on Kickstarter. And when I see a game on Kickstarter, I basically expect the pitch, the sales pitch that the Kickstarter does to look very professional. It has to have a great video. It has to show like a finished, high quality product. And I basically love designing games, and I don't necessarily love to do all the preparation work for a Kickstarter. So working with a publisher that's really good with that was good for me, I think. So they did all the prep work, and then they asked me to assist with certain things. And I think that relationship, that partnership with the publisher was a good match for me. Again, there are many different ways to be a designer. Some designers want to go the other way and do it all themselves. And if they have the ability to motivate themselves and do it at a high enough quality, I say do it, So it's all a matter of what is your skill, what motivates you, and what are you good at.
And the next game, Kickstarter also?
Yeah, it will probably be kickstarted as well. I think that's That's the publishers, the Black Box Adventures. That's their approach with most of their games, and for that's fine. They're pretty good at doing these Kickstarters, and so I feel confident.
What are you still working on because I read on Board Game Geek you are a consultant for video games.
Yes, I work well before. I've been in the computer games industry for a long time, and I've been involved with in various levels of either being a designer or being a producer or whatever, having published 50 or more games on various platforms and consoles. But now I work at a Danish, what's it called? I think it's called a University of Applied Sciences. But I work at a part of that, which is an incubator for startup companies. So it's young. Usually it's students who want to try and start their first computer game company. And then I've also run my own company at one point. So I kind of assist them with everything from how to set up a company and how to build a computer game and how to make a pitch for a publisher and how to figure out when two people in the company are fighting or whatever. So it's standard business development and advisory thing I'm doing.
How do you see this recent connection between the between the board game world, board games themselves, and the digital world?
Oh, there's a lot of connections. I mean, first of all, a lot of people who do computer games also do board games, and vice versa, the other way around. So. And I think there are some of the techniques in terms of designing games that are, some of them are similar, some of them are very different, obviously, because it's real time and you have depth and 3 dimensions and all that stuff in digital games. But some of the other stuff about, how you make sure that you communicate to players and how does the player react to your game. And so there's a lot of similar things you need to consider. The tools you use are just different. I also, something that is different and something that I enjoy about the board games business right now is that it's not so aggressive in terms of marketing, and I think to some there's money in the board games business, but there is less hype, and the amount of investment that it goes into making one game is a lot smaller. So maybe the risk is smaller. I mean, some computer games will cost $100 million or something to create, or at least $20 million, and I don't think that many board games cost that much money. So, and what I experienced when I joined the board games business as such, and I started meeting with business people and so on, is that people are much nicer. I mean, people are also nice in the computer games industry, but in terms of doing business there, it's a lot more cutthroat in the computer games industry, especially if you talk high-end games. So the board games community is still very much driven by everyone's enthusiasm for the hobby, I guess. But it's probably changing, I think.
Yeah, because it's becoming bigger and bigger.
It is, yeah. It's becoming bigger.
And but don't you think this? I mean, more and more games are adopting. More and more board games are adopting gimmicks or techniques which come from digital world. If you see, for example, Chronicles of Crime, It's using the phone, and some others they are using even the laptops and databases and so on and so on.
Yeah, the XCOM game also has like an iPad to keep track of time and so on. I think it's I don't think it's I don't think it's a problem. I think it's part of the innovation.
But don't you think, because you were saying before that there is this much pressure because maybe the investment is bigger on video games than on board games. Don't you think bringing digital component, for example, to board games is gonna make the pressure on board games to become bigger also?
I don't think I don't think the pressure will become bigger because of digital components as such, but I do think the pressure is becoming bigger for the biggest companies. Um, and I think it's a whole different way of running a board game company when you are Fantasy Flight Games than it is when you are like a small indie publisher or a small indie designer. And it's very similar to the computer games industry, where you have the very big companies that where when they make a game, they spend 2 or 3 years preparing, and then they spend another year just doing marketing for that game, and then they launch it. So the production, the design, the production, the manufacturing, and the preparation, it takes much longer because they want to make sure it's a success, and because they invest so much that it has to be a success. And I think there are some big games, and especially when you have licensed content on it, like when you have a Star Wars game or something like that, it's much grander scale, launches, worldwide launches with products going out in all territories across the world at the same time. So so it's just a tiering. There's like different tiers of the industry, and I think they are becoming more apparent today. But I don't think it's because of the digital part of it.
Have you tried any games at Essen, or you were too busy to try any other games?
I was mostly too busy to try other games. I did try. I did see a few games, but I didn't really have time to sit down and play. Well, a friend of mine picked up a copy of Western Legends, which he then gave to me, which I was happy about. So I tried that, and he gave it to me because he said there was some parts of it that reminded him of a game I designed. So I tried it out, and I enjoyed. I tried that with my son actually, and we enjoyed it. So that's one of the games I played. Yeah, but I didn't spend time playing games actually. I was just having meetings all the time.
And what's next? What's next for you? I mean, you have one game coming out next year, and hopefully, yeah, I'm sure it will come. But I know game designers. They are always creating. They never stop.
So I will definitely keep creating games. My creative flow, kind of my motivation goes up and down based on how busy I am at work or whatever happens in my life. And I also have other interests, but I'm hoping that I will. My dream is to have like maybe 10 games published in, I don't know, 5 years or 10 years. And I'm also trying to branch to do more different types of games, to both do small games, smaller, faster games, because originally I started designing more complex games and like larger Euro games. And I love those, and I find the design process very interesting because it's more like you create this intricate system of resources that you need to manage and you need to balance. So there's a lot of calculations going on when you do the design. Where when you do smaller games, it's much more about player-to-player interaction. And I think I've had my eyes open to that. I think that the game called The Mind, which is this game about putting down cards in the correct order, it was such a simple design, and it kind of pissed me off, but it also intrigued me, and I was inspired to kind of start looking at, could I design stuff like that? Maybe not that game, but other games like that. So that's in the future for me, I think.
Okay, thanks so much, Alan. It was a pleasure to have you here at the Curious Box. Well, we'll probably be speaking again next year about the new game, and I wish you good luck.
Yes, you too.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. And this was Allan Kirkeby. I hope I'm pronouncing it well. The Danish designer behind Itchy Monkey. If you haven't played it, check it out. And here at the Curious Box, you know, every Monday, every Friday, sometimes during the week also, during the other days of the week. If you like the videos, thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, help the cause, and I will be seeing you at a table next year.